Brian ran as fast as he could that morning, panting so hard. Behind him were 3 men in black, carrying weapons. Brian ran into the nearby bush without thinking, and this happened. It was 5:30 a.m. The sky was still dark. The air was cool and quiet. Lagos was just waking up. The birds had not started singing, and many people were still sleeping. But inside one big mansion in Ikoyi, a young man was tying his shoelaces. His name was Brian. He was 23 years old. He was tall, handsome, and very rich. He was the only son of Chief Kenneth Ibe, one of the richest men in Nigeria. Everyone knew the Ibe family. They were powerful and had plenty of money. But Brian was different. Even though he had money, cars, and everything he wanted, he loved the simple things. He didn't like too many bodyguards around him. He didn't like noise. He loved peace and quiet. Every morning, he would wear his tracksuit, put on his earpiece, and go jogging alone. His father always warned him, "Brian, stop jogging alone. You're the only son I have. The world is not safe." But Brian would just smile. "Dad, nothing will happen. I'm careful." That morning, Brian stepped out of the mansion. His phone was in his pocket. His favorite music was playing. He started jogging slowly. From the big gate of their mansion, he jogged past other rich houses. He waved at some security men on the road. The air felt good. Brian smiled as he increased his speed. He was jogging freely, feeling good. But suddenly, vroom! A black tinted car sped past him. It stopped just a few feet ahead. The doors opened quickly. 3 men jumped out, wearing black. They were holding guns. Brian froze. At first, he thought it was a mistake. But when the men shouted, "Get him!" Brian's heart almost stopped. He turned and ran. He didn't know where he was running to, but he just ran. The men began to chase him, shouting and pointing their guns. "Jesus!" Brian shouted. His legs were shaking, but he didn't stop. He dropped his phone and kept running. He ran through the street, turned into another road, then jumped into a bush path. He didn't care that his leg was bleeding from thorns. He didn't care that he was sweating like rain. He just wanted to stay alive. The men were still behind him, but he was running faster now. He had never been so scared in his life. He ran deeper into the bush, through tall grasses and muddy paths. He kept running until he reached a small, unknown area with old houses. It looked like a forgotten place, a very poor village. Then his legs gave up. He collapsed. He fell to the ground with his face in the sand. His chest was rising and falling fast. His whole body was shaking. At that same moment, a young girl named Janet was setting up her pap stand nearby. She was just 18 years old. She had stopped school because her mother couldn't pay her school fees again. Her father was dead. She and her mother lived in a small mud house in that poor area. Every morning, Janet would make pap and carry it in a cooler to sell by the roadside. Some people bought with akara, others just drank it plain. That morning, she was just pouring hot pap into small cups when she looked up and saw something strange. A young man, dressed in jogging clothes, was lying on the ground not far from her stand. His body was dirty, his mouth was open, his face was filled with sweat. "Ah!" Janet dropped her cup. She looked left and right. Nobody was around. She picked her bowl of water and ran to him. "Sir? Hello?" she said, shaking him. He didn't answer. She poured some water on his face. Suddenly, Brian jumped up, panting. "They are coming! They want to kill me!" he shouted. His eyes were wide. Calm down," Janet said, scared. "Who wants to kill you?" Brian looked around like someone being chased. I don't know them. They had guns. They were chasing me. I ran and ran. I don't know where I am now." Janet swallowed hard. She had never seen someone this scared before. "Please help me," Brian said, trying to stand but falling again. "Please, I need to hide." Janet looked at his bleeding legs, his torn clothes, and his eyes full of fear. Something in her heart told her to help him. "Come," she said, bending down. "Let me help you stand." She helped Brian slowly stand up. He leaned on her. His body was heavy, but Janet managed to carry him. She left her pap stand, forgot about her customers, and helped Brian walk slowly to her house. Their house was small and old. Just one room with a zinc roof and a wooden door. The walls were made of red mud, and there was only one small bed inside. Janet opened the door and helped Brian sit on the bed. "Thank you," he whispered, still panting. Janet gave him water. She cleaned the wounds on his leg with clean cloth. Brian looked around the tiny room and said nothing. He had never been in such a place before. But at that moment, that small room felt safer than all the big mansions in the world. Thank you so much," he said again. "You don't know who I am, but you just saved my life." Janet gave a small smile. "You can tell me later. For now, just rest. You're safe here." Brian looked at her. This girl didn't know he was a billionaire's son. She didn't know his name, but she didn't care. She helped him when others would have run away. Brian sat on Janet's small wooden bed. His leg was still hurting, but the fear in his heart was slowly going away. Janet had given him water to drink and used clean pieces of cloth to wipe the sweat from his face and blood from his leg. The room was hot and small, but he felt safe there. Janet brought him some cold pap. "It's not much," she said shyly, "but you can drink this. You need energy." Brian looked at the pap in the plastic cup. He had never drunk pap like that before from a roadside cellar with no sugar or milk. But he took it. "Thank you," he said, and slowly began to drink. Janet sat on the floor watching him carefully. She still didn't know who he was or why anyone wanted to kill him. She only knew that this young man needed help, and she couldn't leave him to die. After a few minutes, Brian reached for his back pocket and brought out a small phone. It had fallen earlier when he was running, but he picked it up before entering the bush. His hands were shaking as he dialed his father's number. The phone rang once, then twice. "Hello," a deep voice answered. "Brian? Where are you? We've been searching everywhere. The security guards saw you running and then you disappeared." "Dad," Brian said weakly, "they wanted to kill me. 3 men chased me with guns. I ran until I got lost. I'm in one small village now. A girl helped me." "What? What girl? Where exactly are you? Are you hurt?" "I'm fine. A bit hurt, but safe. Please send police. I'll try to drop my location now." "Stay there. Don't move an inch," Chief Kenneth shouted. "I'm sending police and I'm coming myself." About 20 minutes later, loud sirens filled the air. "Wee-woo! Wee-woo!" Janet jumped from her seat. "Are they back?" she asked, scared. Brian shook his head. "No, that should be my dad." Suddenly, big black jeeps and police vans drove into their quiet village. Janet's neighbors ran out to see what was happening. Policemen jumped out of the vehicles with their guns and spread around the small street. Then one big man in a white kaftan stepped out of the biggest jeep. He looked like someone from a movie. He rushed toward the house with 2 police officers behind him. "Brian!" he shouted. Brian stood up slowly, holding the wall. "Dad!" They hugged tightly. Chief Kenneth was sweating. His eyes were red. "Oh God, thank you, Jesus," he kept saying. "My son is alive. My only son is alive." Then he turned and saw Janet standing quietly in a corner of the room. Her wrapper was tied firmly around her waist. Her feet were dusty, and she looked confused. "Who is this girl?" Chief Kenneth asked. "She's the one who helped me," Brian said. "She found me lying here. She gave me water and brought me to her house." Chief Kenneth's eyes widened. "You helped my son?" Janet nodded slowly. Chief Kenneth didn't wait. He rushed to her and held her hands. "God will bless you. You didn't leave him to die. You have done what money cannot buy. Thank you so much." Janet gave a small smile. "He looked like he was dying. I couldn't leave him." Chief Kenneth turned to his guards. "Give her something, anything!" Brian touched his father's shoulder. "Don't give her anything now. Let's go home first." Chief Kenneth looked back at Janet again and said, "I'll never forget this." Then he turned to Brian. "Let's go. You need to see a doctor now." Brian nodded. He looked at Janet. "Thank you. I'll come back," he said quietly. And just like that, the street was filled with dust and noise again as the cars drove off. Janet stood there, still holding the empty plastic cup, wondering if what just happened was real. The next day, Brian sat in his room at the mansion. The doctor had treated him, and he was feeling better. But something was bothering him. He couldn't stop thinking about Janet. Her kind eyes, her simple smile, the way she helped him without asking who he was. She didn't take photos, she didn't post him online, she didn't even ask for money. He got up and wore a simple t-shirt and jeans. This time, he didn't tell anyone. He didn't carry bodyguards. He quietly entered one of his father's small cars and drove back to the village. Janet was at home with her mother. They were boiling pap again when someone knocked on the wooden door. "Who is that?" her mother asked. Janet opened the door and gasped. It was Brian. He smiled at her. "Hi." "Ah, you came back?" she asked, surprised. "Yes," Brian said. "I couldn't stop thinking about you." Janet's mother came out. "Who is this fine young man?" Brian bent down and greeted her. "Good afternoon, Ma. I'm the boy your daughter helped yesterday. I came to say thank you again." Janet's mother smiled and clapped her hands. "You're welcome, my son. Thank God you're alive." Brian sat with them outside on a wooden bench. They talked and laughed for a long time. Brian was surprised how peaceful it felt here. No noise, no stress, just smiles and warm hearts. He even helped Janet fetch water from the nearby well. Some children stared at him, wondering who this fresh-looking boy was. After many hours, Brian stood up. "I have to go now." Janet followed him to his car. "Thank you for coming," she said softly. "No," Brian said. "Thank you for everything." Then he drove off. But when he got home, trouble started. His father was waiting in the living room. As soon as Brian walked in, Chief Kenneth stood up. "Where are you coming from?" he asked, his voice hard. Brian kept quiet. "You went back to that poor girl's house, didn't you?" Brian looked up. "Yes, I did. I had to say thank you." Chief Kenneth shook his head. "Listen to me, Brian. I'm your father. You are not allowed to go out alone again. And you must never visit that poor girl again. Do you hear me?" Brian frowned. "Why?" "Because she's from another world. We are rich people. She's a pap seller. What if she tells people who you are? What if they use you to get money?" "She saved me!" Brian shouted. "She helped me when nobody else did." "And she has been rewarded," Chief Kenneth said. "That's enough. Stay away from her. That's my final word." Brian walked away slowly. He didn't want to argue. But deep inside his heart, he knew this was not the end. Something had started between him and Janet. Something his father could not stop. Brian could not stop thinking about Janet. Every morning when he woke up, he thought about her smile. Every night before he slept, her voice echoed in his heart. The way she helped him when he collapsed in the bush, the way she didn't care about his money or name, it was all too real for him. Even though his father had warned him strictly, Brian didn't listen. He started sneaking out of the house, sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon. He would tell the house staff, "I'm going to the gym," but instead he would drive straight to Janet's area. Janet was always surprised to see him. "You came again?" she would ask. And Brian would smile. "Of course I came. I missed you." At first, Janet was shy. She didn't know what to say. She knew Brian was from a rich family, and she was just a poor girl who sold pap. She had only finished JSS 3 before dropping out. Her slippers were torn. Her clothes were old. But Brian didn't care about all that. He would bring her small gifts, a new wrapper for her mother, slippers, a bag of rice, sometimes even perfumes and body cream. He even brought her a simple phone. "I don't need all this," Janet would say. "But I want you to have them," Brian replied. "You deserve more." Sometimes he would take her out quietly in his car. They would drive to places with trees and fresh air where no one knew them. Brian would buy her food, soft drinks, and ice cream. One day, while they sat under a mango tree, Brian looked at her and said, "Janet, I think I'm falling in love with you." Janet's heart started beating fast. She looked away. "No, don't say that," she said. "Why?" "You know why," she whispered. "Your father will never agree. You are a billionaire's son. I am just a poor girl." "I don't care," Brian said. "I don't care about money or background. I care about how you make me feel." "You saved my life, Janet. That moment changed everything in me. I love you." Janet felt her eyes getting wet. She had never been told such words in her life. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust him. But fear was holding her back. Brian continued visiting. Their bond grew stronger. Janet started laughing more, smiling brighter, and even dressing a little neater, her mother noticed. "Janet," she asked one evening, "are you in love with that boy?" Janet looked down. "I don't know, Mama." "Be careful, my daughter. Don't let your heart break. Rich people don't marry poor girls. Just be careful." Janet nodded, but her heart was already deep inside. She didn't know how to stop the feelings anymore. One Sunday afternoon, Brian was in his room, lying on his bed, smiling at his phone. He had just received a message from Janet. "Thank you for today," she wrote. "You make me feel special." Brian smiled. He picked up his phone and called her immediately. "I was just thinking about you," he said. "I wish I could come over now." Janet laughed. "You'll come tomorrow. Mama is even asking of you." Just then, Brian didn't know his father was standing by the door. Chief Kenneth had walked in quietly and heard everything. "You'll come over?" the chief said in a deep voice. Brian turned sharply. His phone almost fell from his hand. "Dad?" "Don't dad me," Chief Kenneth barked. "You still talking to that pap seller?" Brian stood up. "Her name is Janet. And she's not just a pap seller. She's kind, strong, and poor," his father shouted. "She's poor, Brian. We don't mix with people like that. I warned you, but you ignored me. So now I'll handle it myself." Before Brian could say another word, Chief Kenneth stormed out of the room. He ordered his guards, "Get the car. We are going to that village right now." In less than an hour, 3 black jeeps entered Janet's street again. Dust filled the air as the car stopped in front of her house. Janet and her mother came outside, confused and afraid. Then Chief Kenneth stepped out. "Are you Janet?" he asked loudly. "Yes, sir," she said softly. He looked at her from head to toe. Then he spoke in a loud, angry voice. "Stay away from my son. Don't call him. Don't text him. Don't see him again. Do you hear me? If you really care about him, you'll leave him alone. My son is not for someone like you." Janet's eyes filled with tears. She looked at her mother, then back at the chief. "I never asked him to love me," she said. "I only helped him." "Well, help time is over," the chief snapped. "End this before you regret it." He turned and entered his car. The jeeps drove off fast, shaking the ground. Janet stood there, frozen. Her hands were shaking. Her lips quivered. She turned and ran inside the house. Her mother followed her quickly. Inside, Janet dropped to the floor and cried. She cried like a child. "Why does it hurt this much, Mama?" she asked. "Why does love have to be this hard?" Her mother held her. "Cry, my child. Let it out. Maybe that's the last time you'll see him." But it wasn't. The next day, Brian came back. He didn't care about what his father had done. He knocked gently and stepped inside when Janet opened the door. "Janet, I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't know he would come here. I swear I didn't plan it." Janet looked at him with red eyes. She had not slept all night. "Brian," she said, "we need to stop this." "No," Brian said quickly. "Don't say that." "We must," Janet said, her voice breaking. "Your father came here and insulted me. He threatened me. I can't live like this. I can't keep hiding. I don't want to be the girl that caused problems in your family." Brian stepped closer. "You're not causing any problem. I love you, Janet, and I won't let you go just like that." Janet looked away. "You say that now, but one day you'll regret knowing me." Brian's eyes turned hard. "Don't say that. Don't talk like that. I'm a man. I make my own choices. And I chose you." "I'm not strong enough to keep fighting," Janet said in a whisper. "Well, then I'll fight alone," Brian replied. His voice was shaking with emotion. "But I'm not walking away. Not now. Not ever." They stood there in silence. The air between them was heavy. Janet wanted to believe him, but fear still filled her heart. And outside the small mud house, a neighbor had been listening quietly. When Brian returned home that evening, he was not the same. He didn't greet his father. He didn't smile. He went straight to his room and locked the door. At dinner time, the chef called him. "Olga, Brian, your food is ready." "I'm not hungry," he said. The next morning, the housekeeper knocked on his door. "Sir, breakfast is ready." "I don't want it." By the third day, Chief Kenneth noticed something was wrong. He called Brian for a family meeting, but Brian didn't come out. Finally, Chief Kenneth walked to his son's room and knocked hard. "Brian, open this door now," he shouted. Brian opened the door slowly. He looked pale and tired. His eyes were red. "What's wrong with you?" his father asked. "Why are you behaving like this?" Brian said nothing. "You have stopped eating, stopped talking, and now you walk around this house like a ghost. Is it because of that girl?" Brian looked him straight in the eyes. "Her name is Janet, and yes, it's because of her. I love her." Chief Kenneth laughed coldly. "So love is now making you behave like a madman? If loving someone who saved my life and gave me peace is madness, then I don't want to be sane," Brian said firmly. "Well, continue," his father said angrily. "Destroy yourself if you want. Let's see where it leads you." But things didn't stop there. 2 days later, Chief Kenneth went back to Janet's house again. This time, he came alone in a dark suit. He waited outside until Janet came out with a bowl of pap. He walked up to her, pointed at her face and said, "You're stubborn. I see that now. But let me tell you something, you will only bring my son pain. Let him go. Let him focus on his future. You are not part of it." Janet stood quietly, looking at the ground. She said nothing. When Brian heard what his father did, he was filled with fire. He rushed to Janet's house that evening, breathing hard. "Why didn't you tell me he came again?" "I didn't want to make things worse," she said. "He keeps treating you like nothing. I can't take it anymore," Brian said. Then he sat beside her and held her hands. "Let's go," he said softly. "Let's leave Nigeria. Let's go abroad, start fresh. I have money. We'll be fine." Janet pulled her hands away. "Travel abroad without your father's knowledge?" "Yes," Brian said. "He doesn't need to know. We'll go quietly. I just want peace. I want to be with you away from this madness." Janet shook her head. "Brian, I'm scared. What if it doesn't work? What if we suffer?" "You won't suffer," Brian said. "I'll protect you. Just trust me." Still, Janet was not convinced. Later that night, she sat with her mother and explained everything. Her mother listened quietly, then took her hands and said something that shocked her. "Go with him." Janet's eyes widened. "Mama?" "Yes," her mother said. "Brian loves you. You love him. If he wants to take you somewhere better, then go. This may be God's way of changing our lives." "But what if his father—" "Forget his father," Mama said gently. "That man may have money, but he doesn't have your heart. Brian does." Tears rolled down Janet's cheeks. She hugged her mother tightly. "Thank you, Mama." "Just promise me one thing," her mother whispered. "Don't forget where you came from." 2 weeks later, they left. Brian arranged everything. He booked 2 first-class tickets. He got Janet a passport and visa. He even paid someone to help them process it quickly without his father's knowledge. They flew out quietly, no drama, no noise. When Chief Kenneth found out his son had left the country with Janet, he was furious. He called Brian's number, but it didn't go through. He contacted the police, but they said there was no case. For weeks, he didn't hear anything. He lost sleep. He kept looking at Brian's baby pictures and shaking his head. Then one day, Brian sent him a message. "We are fine. I'm safe. I love her, and I'm not coming back without her." Chief Kenneth read the message over and over again. He sat down and cried for the first time in years. Alone in his big mansion, with his only son gone, he finally understood he was wrong. A month later, he called Brian's phone again. This time it went through. "My son," he said softly, "I'm sorry." Brian didn't answer. "I was proud and harsh, but I'm ready to make peace. Please, come back home, you and Janet. I accept her." There was silence. Then Brian replied, "We'll think about it." 1 year later, the airport in Lagos was filled with reporters and guests. Everyone was waiting. A private jet had just landed. Out came Brian looking fresh, matured, and calm. Beside him was Janet glowing, beautiful, and heavily pregnant. The media took pictures. Cameras clicked non-stop. But Janet didn't care. She held Brian's hand tightly. They walked out together. Chief Kenneth was waiting by a black car, holding flowers. He walked slowly to Janet, removed his cap, and said, "I'm sorry." Janet smiled. "It's okay, sir." The next month, something magical happened. Brian and Janet had a big wedding, a very elaborate one. It was held in a large hall in Lekki. White roses covered the walls. Celebrities, politicians, and business people attended. Janet wore a white gown that sparkled like diamonds. Her mother wept joyfully all through. After the wedding, Brian made an announcement. In honor of the woman who raised my wife, I am gifting Mama a brand new duplex. The crowd clapped, cameras flashed. Mama fainted from happiness and was quickly revived with cold water and fanning. Everyone laughed and celebrated. That night, as Brian and Janet sat together holding hands, Janet looked into his eyes and said, "We made it." Brian smiled. "I told you, love always wins." And this time, she believed him completely. The end. Did you learn anything from this story? Let me know in the comment section. Tell me everything you learned from this story. Please leave your answers and join the conversation below in the comments section. If you enjoyed watching and listening to this story, then click on that like button and subscribe to this channel now so that you can see more of my interesting stories and folktales. Thank you so much for watching this video to this very end. Click on any of the video links above to watch more of my interesting stories on this channel.